But the idea is that we have long traditions of physical abuse. I talked to you about physical abuse, about Hitler being beaten every day in his family system. And of course the thing is, people will sit out there and say, well, I was beaten, but I didn't become an abuser. I didn't become a criminal. I didn't become a mass murderer. And frequently the people telling me that just don't even realize what they're saying. When I look at them and I see their dissociations, or I see their lack of feelings, or how much they're in a role or a script, or there's some workaholic with their family over here lonely and abandoned, and they're in denial about that. They've minimized their impact of their addiction on their family, their workaholic addiction on their family, and the kids are all, in pain over it and feel abandoned by it, and that daddy will have all kind of ways to deny that and to minimize. See, part of the illness is denial and minimizing. In fact, a lot of victims of physical abuse don't know they were victimized. Don't know they were victimized. I would bet that there are a bunch of you in this audience that were physically abused who don't really know you were physically abused. Or you'll say, well, just a couple of times. Just a couple of times they really went crazy and knocked me around. See, that's physical abuse. Or if you saw your sister being slapped to the point where it was clearly out of any need for discipline. And please understand me, I don't personally like corporal punishment. I think on occasion, little Guinevere's out in the street and a car's coming. A pat on the bottom could be an effective intervention. But to take her inside and whack her 10 times has absolutely no evidence whatsoever that that's helpful to her as a person, or that discipline, which means a learning, a teaching. Disciplina in Latin means to teach people something. What does that teach somebody? What it teaches is that when you get the power in the rod, you get to whack somebody too. That's exactly what it teaches. Because then the child is told, I am doing this for your own good. I'm doing this for you. This is an act of love. As I hurt your body. It hurts to be hit. It hurts to be hit. And somehow we have just glossed this over. I wrote up one day on a crisis hotline. You cannot believe the stuff that was coming in. The physical abuse that was coming in on crisis hotline. And if you don't believe me, call somebody down there and just ask them. The kind of abuse, the burning, scratching, slamming heads, crushing heads, kicking, hanging a kid upside down, cattle prods. 10 million people are the victims of their own family's violence a year, and the number is growing. I've got the stats in Harris County, and it was started off like about 71. It was 30 per month, and then 72 it was 60 a month, and 90 a month by 74, 187 a month by 75. The abusing family, Blair and Rita Justice, wrote a book some years ago, but I think they're top people in the field. And that book still has valuable kind of stuff on abusive families and the kinds of things that happen in abusive families. 1 out of 8 women are beaten by their husbands. You know what the old rule of thumb was? How wide your stick could be that you beat your wife with. That was the rule of thumb. I wrote down this from the Harvard Business Review. This is an article that was written in 1973 by R.J. Light, talking about colonial America. A father had the right not only to kill his child, but to call on colony officers to assist him. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not a historian. But this is written for the Harvard Educational Review, November 1973, number 143. That as late as 1892, 200 foundlings and 100 dead infants were found in the streets of New York. That it was not until the late 1890s, in a case of a girl called Mary Ellen, a 9-year-old, that they found chained to her bed in a tenement building. You know who found her? The Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. You know why? Because there was no society for the prevention of cruelty to children.